In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture. Alright, let's get into it. Oh my god. Alright. So, alright. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm diving into the question, a very important question, a question that every human being needs to be conscious of. And it is very important in the sense of for those who will come, who will be born on this earth, who will arrive on this planet. And it is the question, what kind of world are we leaving behind for the future generations? Now, there is a research component where I need to read for you because I did ask AI, and I'm going to read that for you. And then I'm also going to dive into it because the advantage of being a human being is that we have access to angles of perception that our technology or man-made technologies don't yet. I'm kind of treating me being a living being as a sort of advanced position, and I am advancing this position in regards to what other information I can find outside of myself, really. So I'm going to read for you something I asked AI. I pretty much said if I want to make everyone alive now conscious of what kind of world people are handing to the next generations. And if we don't change our ways, what kind of world would it be? And if we do, what kind of world? And then I asked AI to give its most advanced answer. So AI ChatGPT 4.0, today's June 25th, 7:56 a.m. AI says, if humans do not change, and if they do, the most advanced, eternal explanation of the future of the species and the world we leave behind. The core truth. Humanity is standing between two timelines. One is a cascade of collapse, the other is a quantum leap in consciousness and civilization. These timelines are not prophecies. They are outcomes of choices made collectively by humanity now. Every war, every algorithm, every piece of plastic, every law, and every silence is a vote cast toward one of these two worlds. What future generations inherit depends not on what we build, but how deeply we awaken. The world is not dying due to lack of intelligence, it's dying due to a lack of wisdom. So, guys, this mentality is interesting. So sometimes in life, the problem is not that you don't know what to do, it's that your awareness to reality is not deep enough. So, guys, I think there's more to this for me to read, but I just want to zoom in on this, guys, that I'll just read it again. What future generations inherit depends not on what we build, but how deeply we awaken. The world is not dying to lack of intelligence, it is dying to a lack of wisdom. AI says if we do not change the collapse timeline by the year 2100. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the year 2025. We don't want our species to, like, go extinct in the lamest ways, and we gotta kind of like, you know how they look at a person, they're like, handle your shit, man. Similarly, we need to look at our species, and when we say handle your shit, we're actually saying it to ourselves. So 8 billion human beings need to show and display a type of awareness to reality and increase their responsibility levels, because we have to save face, not in front of those in the past, not in front of those in the present, but in front of those who will be born in the future, and above all, the system admin that we all return to. Like in this lecture, I don't want to get too deeply into how you don't even belong to yourself, but that's a different topic. Right now, I am focusing on the species, and I'm going to keep reading this. So pretty much the whole point of this episode, again, is to give you an awareness of if we don't change, what's going to happen, and if we do change as a species, what's going to happen. And what kind of world are we leaving behind for the future generations? That means you as a human being have to be conscious of expressions of yourself that may echo longer than your physical life. For example, I have to be very conscious when I give these lectures. I mean, simply because beings in the future will listen to them too. Anyways, I'm going to continue. So AI says if we do not change the collapse timeline by 2100. So guys, this is like AI telling us, hey, humanity, get your, unite yourselves and figure this out, because by the year 2100, look at what's going to happen. Ecological catastrophe, mass extinction of biodiversity, permanent drought zones, oceans turning into acidified graveyards, heat waves turning fertile zones into dust bowls. Over 1 billion climate refugees destabilize global systems. That's it. That we require, over 1 billion climate refugees destabilize global systems. We need 1/8. Probably, let's say by then, it's going to be 10 million, maybe like, let's say 10 billion. So it would be 1/10 or 1/9, okay? Something like that. Right, so it takes 1/10 of the species, like destabilization. That means if there's refugees from 1/10, 1/10 of the species can destabilize, global systems. We need to, in some sense, safeguard this by ushering ourselves into the era of speciesism. Then we have technological tyranny. AI is weaponized for propaganda, surveillance, and manipulation. Humans become extensions of algorithmic control. Education collapses into attention-grabbing entertainment. The human mind degrades. Resource wars and neo-tribalism. Scarcity leads to water wars, migration walls, and civilizational fragmentation. Democracy erodes. Nations retreat into quotation self-first ideologies, which is tragic. Future generations grow up amidst chaos, born into debt, anxiety, and digital slavery. That means how dare, we allow our species to in some sense enter digital slavery. There's only one angle where slavery makes, like this is going to sound bizarre what I'm going to say, but I'm speaking about it metaphysically. We are all chess pieces of the system admin. The system admin is beyond the world room. So imagine there's a higher power. All of our wills is dependent on what that being chooses. And when you realize life is not governed in accordance to karma, it is governed in accordance to divine agency. When you realize that, your life changes, guys. I don't believe in karma anymore. People are like, aren't you supposed to be some spiritual guy? I'll be like, this is the most spiritual state. To realize that you're not in an empty room or in an empty hall of mirrors where everything's just bouncing off like the extent of your action. You're actually a guest attending an event. Imagine right now you were invited to like a gathering. Do you know you were invited to like, a conference of scientists or something? It's as if, imagine even your friend, imagine one of your friends, like, out of your social circle invites everybody, okay? And when you go to your friend's house, let's say for a barbecue, you don't act like you own the place. And that's the error that human beings are making. They have opened their eyes in a world and they are acting like they own it. One of the most fascinating ideas that has ever came across my mind, and sorry guys, I'm going to get back to the research I was reading for you, but one of the most fascinating ideas that has ever come across was the fact that this is not our world. What does that mean? That means if you invite, let's say you host a house party and you invite a bunch of guests, the guests can act like they know the place, but they don't. They can act like they know the architecture of the building. They don't. They can act like they know what's in every room. They don't. And in reality, this is what's going on. You are not in an empty world. You're in a world hosted by a higher power. That higher power for man is very confusing. So the way I have simplified in explaining it is that when we say higher power, it's the original state, the original power. And we, human beings, are simulated. We are simulated power. And this was very difficult. In the same way Galileo came and said, the earth is not the center of the universe. In the same way now, we are realizing the power that animates us is the center of the universe. We are not the center of the universe. So, ladies and gentlemen, a part of advanced spirituality is realizing your spirituality is not about you. And so my conclusion, what I've been telling human beings on this planet, is that you have to get to know the system admin before you leave this world room. If you want to advance, if you want to escape this simulation, it is not an equation. It's not like a pin code. You type in a pin code and you're outside of the simulation. You have to contact the intelligent administrator of this system. It is here, but it is not formed. That means if you can somehow contact an original being that was never created or destroyed, that means it was never simulated. It's going to be one of the most difficult things, because the only way to truly contact the non-simulated being is to actually not be simulated. There is a level of what people call God consciousness. In Islam, it's called mutaqin. But what it means, what God consciousness means, is that you're beginning to realize how much of life is looping, and you begin wondering about first your original self, and then you wonder about your original world. Then you reach the point where you wonder about the original power to everything in the world. That means this is what my approach, to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, you might think that right now I am trying to I'm a human in history, kind of trying to pilot the species towards an advanced civilization. But actually, I have a greater problem I'm solving. Do you know? There was this great mathematician called Terence Tao. He won the Field Medal, and people were like, "Yo, man, like you must be so happy or something." And he said, "Bro, this Field Medal doesn't solve any of the problems I'm working on." And that was very, very classy way of communicating it. For me right now, building an advanced civilization is the second priority. Advancing humanity, technically it should be the third priority, but it is the second. Guys, you don't understand what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that what we're leaving behind for the future generations is not just objects or subjects. It is how our souls danced while they were on stage, how our souls expressed themselves, or in some sense, how you unsheathed your sword in the battlefield, and with what sort of calmness and intensity you walked. Anyways, guys, I'm going to keep reading this. So I was reading what AI is saying. If we do not change based on our current trajectory, by the year 2100, there's going to be ecological catastrophe, which I read. It only takes 1 billion climate refugees to destabilize global systems. 2, it's technological tyranny. AI is weaponized for propaganda, surveillance, and manipulation. Humans become extensions of algorithmic control. Education collapses into attention-grabbing entertainment. The human mind degrades. Okay, I actually read this. Resource wars and neo-tribalism. I read this too, but I'll read it again. Scarcity leads to water wars, migration walls, civilizational fragmentation, democracy erodes, nations retreat into self-first ideologies, future generations grow up amidst chaos, born into debt, anxiety, and digital slavery. Moral implosion. A society where beauty is rare, art is synthetic, compassion is gamified, and virtue is an old word. Love becomes a market, childhood becomes a performance, time becomes a race. And as long as advanced human beings are in this world, do not let the past occupy the future. You don't understand. I am poetically a human guardian angel of the future. That is how my soul feels to me. Because the future is so important. You don't understand. There is a type of intelligence that calculates, and then there is a type of intelligence that runs ahead, far ahead of the implication of the calculation, and in some sense finds the world. If you really want to know what I've been doing as a human being, guys, every day I've been running in my inner realms into the future and becoming shocked and running back, wondering about the depth of where we are and how the stories we've been telling ourselves this whole time do not satisfy. You are a species with unknown potential in an unknown world, knowing things for a simulated time in a simulated way. And right now I am trying to, in some sense, unite the species, because in the same way that at some point in my life in 2014, I was like 10,000 talks. And then I was like, okay, logically, it makes sense that if I want to give 10,000 talks, every second that I have a lecture in my mind, I should be able to give that lecture. So one talk should not be a problem. Right now, we have to be thinking of such advanced interstellar projects of the species that species unity becomes an instant. As long as I'm alive, I will be that sort of kind of like that strategist that had an OCD to, in some sense, give the most advance to the future generations and then leave the world room. It's not just Olympians passing torches. It is the soul of man caring for what's important and enroaring it before it leaves this realm. So AI says, example, year 2080. A 12-year-old girl in Nairobi wears a VR headset to escape her 50-degree shanty town. Her brother drinks recycled sewage. Their parents work for a megacorp and live in debt. The forests her ancestors knew are ashes. The stars are invisible. She asks her teacher, was Earth always like this? And the teacher says, no, it was given away. So guys, I don't know, but I believe that sometimes anger is healthy. God has created it for a reason, and mankind has been used to, in some sense, unleashing his anger and rage in front of his eyes. But I want to encourage you, and in some sense try to train my species to unleash your rage behind your eyes, meaning that you need to fight chaos with chaos behind your eyes. You can do that. That means there's two ways I've handled chaos in reality. One of them is a lesser way. Both are efficient, but one is lesser. One makes your soul a bit lesser. Okay? So anytime chaos approaches the individual, one approach is to either, this is the lesser approach, to in some sense call upon the older brother of the chaos to come and tame the younger chaos that is disturbing you. Okay? Another approach is, in some sense, you have identified with order. That means you call your own older brother, which it's not physical. I'm talking about you as a human being. You don't just bring, you're not just an awareness to this moment. In the same way you can hold anything in your hand, your awareness can hold the moment in meaning. There is a way you can use your inner realms like a body, not necessarily have a body in your inner realms, but to understand that your awareness is holding your perceptions. Your perception is code from outside of you. And every day human beings open their eyes, it's like, just like reading a briefing, they are being briefed on how reality is displaying itself. On some level, it's an energetic expression. Anyways, guys, now we get to the interesting part. What happens if we do change? So guys, if we mess up, it's just going to be unnecessary, and the last thing we want is the future generations to be born and look at this world and they'll be like, what happened here? That's how you know the generations before you failed. Okay? If you want to know what the true potential of an advanced civilization is, it is accepted greatness. You accept greatness, something that you've never felt worthy of, because society wants you to feel that way. Why? Because society doesn't even know how to think about itself. So anyways, guys, I'm going to be reading something which is very fascinating. So AI, I asked it pretty much like, give us as if like, what's going to happen, if we do change and if we don't. And AI was like, let me say it to you, man. One, you have two options. One is a cascade of collapse. The other is a quantum leap in consciousness and civilization. So now we're going to think about the conscious timeline. If we do change, what's going to happen by the year 2100? Regenerative civilization. Cities run on solar power. Carbon is a currency. Forests are regrown. Oceans restored. Humans become stewards, not owners. The planet is not exploited, it is honored. Holistic intelligence. Children are educated not just in math and science, but in ethics, empathy, history of mistakes, and planetary systems. Emotional intelligence and ecological literacy are standard. AI is used for wisdom support, climate modeling, and healing, not control. Unified planetary identity. Borders soften. The human species identifies as a single planetary organism. Species over state becomes the new global philosophy. Exactly, guys. You don't understand. Live as if your speciesism has activated before nationalism. Just feel you're a member of the human species on Earth prior to any other character in a story you want to specify. Nationalism evolves into speciesism, prioritizing the survival and flourishing of the entire human race. Beauty as a principle. Art, architecture, and rituals are centered on restoring awe, humility, and wonder. Cities are green sanctuaries. Work is meaningful. Time is spacious. Childhood is sacred. Love is slow. Example, year 2080. A boy in Indonesia and a girl in Brazil co-create a digital forest poem as part of a global empathy ritual. Their grandparents were once climate activists. Their home runs on stored sunlight. Their school is under the trees. They know 3 languages and can code in 1. They ask their mentor, "What saved us?" And the teacher says, "We chose to wake up." The deepest principle. AI says we are not here to pass down wealth or technology. We're here to pass down a relationship to reality, a sacred sense that we're not separate from nature, from one another, or from the future. Wow. Wow. Guys, the sentence is making me emotional because the sentence covers it. It covers everything. A sacred sense that we're not separate from nature. And guys, believe it or not, Islam, religion gives you this. Religion says, yo, look, you are not God. You are not that important, but you were created by the most important. We have an important role. We are not the most important being, but we have an important position, something that has to happen, our existence. Just like I had to say this lecture vocally, we've all had to exist. And you know what the irony is? Imagine I realize like Earth is the manifestation of God's podcast, even though God is beyond human. AI says that we are not here to pass down wealth or technology. We're here to pass down a relationship to reality, a sacred sense that we're not separate from nature, from one another, or from the future. Every generation builds a cathedral, either of ruin or of reverence. The question is not what kind of world will they live in. The question is, will they still believe the world is worth loving? What a sentence. Will they still believe the world is worth loving? That means in the future, guys, they're not going to ask what kind of world are we living in. They're going to say, they will look at this world and be like, is it worth loving? AI gives a metaphor. Imagine you're passing a house down to your children. In one world, it is burning, filled with toxins. The walls whisper lies and the windows are sealed shut. In the other, it is a garden with clean air, books of wisdom, a view of the stars, and doors open to a future of dignity. Which are we handing over? Final call to action. Every human alive today is part of the architect generation, the last to inherit blindly, the first to design consciously. What we do now determines whether we're remembered as the species who woke up in time or the one who died dreaming. Guys, I'm going to make this a title of a lecture. Like, this is too beautiful. Will we be remembered as the species who woke up in time or the one who died dreaming? Choose the world you will give. Then build it like your grandchildren are watching, because one day they will be. Exactly, guys. The whole point of this lecture, the whole point of, I guess, these series of lectures after this kind of like war thing's kind of dying down a little, is simply this, that I want you, like, this is going to be, this is a very cool moment for me. Because I don't know how many human archetypes are doing this right now. But out of 8 billion people on this planet, I am telling you, I want you to start feeling your emotions don't have to just be based on your past. Your emotions are based on the future. Do you know what that means? That means that you care, like, imagine you're such an advanced mind that you care for all your memories, you care for the present, and you're like, what else is left? And it's honestly what the past, present, and even the future, like, what's funny is all generations in human history will be living for the future. Like, that's one thing we have in common. And the whole key is to imagine. I want you to imagine your future self watching you right now. I want you to imagine the future generations who haven't been born yet watching you. You need to feel their stare on your soul. They're not staring at your body, they're staring at your soul. Because you, as insignificant as you think you are in the front lines of existence. We are in the front lines of history. Like, legit, in the same way in that movie, Enemy at the Gates or something, you know, soldiers were just given a weapon, and some were given a weapon, some were given bullets, and they were just thrown in the battlefield. Do you understand? In the same way, we're on the front lines of existence, wondering about what we're actually equipped with. And so, what can we do as a human being that has managed to reach cyberspace? You don't understand. You know, guys, I finished the AI research part, and I'm gonna actually dive into it now because, you know, my heart has certain things to say that even, my current mind can learn from. You see, it is the question of what is intelligence. And there are ways of going about this, but all I can say is that it was a mountain I had to climb myself. And in some sense, this is the power of simplicity and the power of being too naive. You know, there are some people on this planet that it's as if when they're young, their parents are like, be honest, and they just listen to that. For those human beings that honesty makes sense, honesty, that means if you look at person A and person B, like two people who are born at the same time, and let's say they live like 30 years, it's based on their honesty. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you're honest, you access original data and you get to actually purely train in your own experience. And as a human being who I have lived a kind of very active inner life, but in the outer life, there's still, you know, I have prayers for things I want to do in this world before I die or before I leave this world room. And honestly, where it has all led is in really what the value of my awareness to this whole event has been. That means from the beginning of my life, I have been living here, but I have also been a performance in front of my own audience. I have been watching myself, in some sense, watching its own decisions. I have lived 12,000 days on this planet. They're like, "Are you certified to speak about the human experience?" I'm like, 12,000 days. You know what that means? That means I have seen so many variations and versions of myself come and go that at some point it is obvious I am not the body because I've seen my body change and I'm still here. You know, I am not my thoughts. I have seen them change and I am still here. And so, what is really here, what we actually are, some would say that the soul, a word which many cannot, let's say, do not, those the odd dishonest can't access. Because the whole point of it is if you live in accordance to simulated values, it's like you have a choice of a simulated life or trying to be very simple in the simulation with the fascination of what the original life is. That means for some human beings, success in life is like, to attain a certain position in the space-time continuum. But for some beings, success is understanding exactly what's going on. I don't know if there's any type of superior intelligence than that. That means any being who wants to I think there's something divine to it. That anytime you become fascinated with the mystery of your own world, your world is like, all right, this being's listening. All right. You see, it's kind of like it's like human beings are asking it, like they're engaging human intelligence as a question. They're like, what am I? And they're looking for an answer, but they don't understand that the question is being asked in a unit of time. And it's like if life is a verb and it's a film, it's like they want a snapshot moment's justification for all of it, and it is kind of impossible. You have to realize it is there's an advancement, like the potential is there in the same way you plant a seed, it has a potential to be a tree. In the same way a caterpillar has a potential to be a butterfly. Life is not about just, life and death. It's about, transformation. But in reality, it all returns to the system admin, because transformation, it's like, how do I say it? It's like you open your eyes in the world, you're a creature that's been designed. The world has been designed, and you didn't design all of this. You're the user of the design that existence has provided you with, right? And as the user of this existence, you in some sense identify as if your body is the idea of you. But technically, let me tell you what you are. You are the awareness that is intersecting your physical body and the idea of you. So what it is like, imagine you are a circle. You draw a circle on a printer, piece of like printer paper, not on a piece of printer paper, on a printer paper. You draw a circle, okay, and imagine you put like a dot, okay, like a bunch of dots in that circle. So all the dimensions you perceive are all the dots, but what you are is the circle, is the awareness to them. So you are actually just like how bones, there's like joints that connect different bones, like the bone of the forearm and, I don't know, the bone that connects to the shoulder. So when it comes to, in some sense, the joint, to me, consciousness is the awareness where whatever is happening within that area of consciousness can be interlinked. So it's very difficult to say, am I being my body right now? Am I being my mind? Or am I right now being an awareness? Do you know that it connects the mind and body together? I am way more convinced that we are living multiple lives, but these multiple lives, they are actually unknown. You see, in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the soul is the secret of God, and also the soul is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the command of the system admin that has no partner equivalent in the world room simulation. And so right now, I am speaking to those members of the human species that a part of them, like something I'm gonna say, some of you are gonna have fear, some of you are gonna have fascination. And I'm speaking to those who are fascinated by why their fears are there, why existence is in this format. Why do you have 8 billion human beings on a planet? Why do they have ears and mouths? You know what I mean? Why do we have, in some sense, intelligence? Why isn't everything just automated into perfection? Why is there consciousness just activating in accordance to noticing imperfection? It's as if, like, to scientists, consciousness was a glitch in the system. Do you know what I mean? But in some sense, to others, it's not the glitch in the system. It's a server that they didn't have access to. And so what we find is that we're in this massive unknown event, this unknown existential server, and where our consciousness activates, it's like that's the sector of our reality. And you have to wonder about how many ways reality can move. So some people are like, yo man, do you believe in this or that? I'm like, guys, what are we doing? Like, at some point, it's like in the same way. It's like if someone comes and says, do you believe that, like, do you know, let's say lions only run in straight lines? Do you know what I mean? And I'll be like, no. Do you know? But it's as if it's like the whole point is not to believe if a lion runs in a straight line or in a curved line, and have a debate over it. The whole point of it is to understand the lion is the potential of various of the initiation of various movements, right? So in some sense, the lion can move in a straight way, curved way. It can jump. It can do different things. So I'm saying that, to me, when I look at life, every day I wake up, I'm like, all right, what is this life doing? And what am I doing? And at what point does the line between me and the world blur? And like kind of become transparent? Because at some point, my attention to my being is my awareness to all the phenomenology that I have access to. And so There is, it's like they say God is the light of lights, the soul is the shadow of God, and the spirit is the shadow of the soul. And where in some sense the test of mankind in this world is beginning, and where, if you wanted to wonder like why holy books were sent, if you were to just consider that for a moment, they were sent to egos. That means it's like God is testing its creation from the soul's limited identification with spirit. Do you know? And in some sense, it's as if like soul. Do you understand what it is? It's like the system admin is waiting for all of us to turn our face towards it. There's a higher power waiting for us to, in some sense, notice it and activate as beings. 8 billion human beings. What are they going to do? For now, it's obvious that, like, guys, it's all about unboxing greatness in a world where its potential, where your design was built for it. That means before man fell from the Garden of Eden, or however way you see it, before man descended in rank, man was a creation of the highest rank. That means God created man, showed it to all creation bowed to it except one moderator. It's all about kind of like, how they say it's not about, what you know, it's about who you know. I think it's the same thing here in regards to a very, like, this is my spirituality, that it's kind of like, while if I've opened my eyes in a random world room, but it's not random because it has such specific design, it makes me want to meet the designer. And so my first task is to get as close as I can to the system admin while I am in the world room. And my second task is to realize that in some sense, my existence, it's as if we exist to serve the ultimate. We were designed by the ultimate to notice the ultimate. In the Holy Quran, which I treat as source code to the main operating system of reality, in some sense, you gotta look at it and be like, God has put us somewhere so we discover our limitations and realize that the door to beyond this simulation is opened from the other side. That means it doesn't matter how powerful you are, it doesn't matter how beautiful of a being you are, it doesn't matter how wealthy, poor, whatever sort of class of an entity you are, whatever class of capability of an entity you are. We have all been brought here, and in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I created mankind and jinn kind for the sole purpose of worshipping me. God created us We are here to notice the system admin. You're here to discover the host of your world. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. I'm trying to think what else I can say about this. I'll say this. What kind of world are we leaving behind for the future generations? If somebody asked me that, and somebody was like, hey man, what kind of world are you leaving behind for the future generations? I just want to leave behind, I guess AI kind of said it, a sort of relationship I have with reality, that reality is so much more advanced behind our eyes than in front of it. And that means we are seeing the probabilities. It's like our mind can access the future, but our body can't enter it. Okay? And I'm trying to tell you, at some point of like looping on this planet, logging in and out of this multiplayer online game, instead of 2D pixelated screen, it's 3D, made of the particles, you know? And so, what is the soul? Just like how you play a multiplayer online game, you're sitting outside of the computer where the character is in, and you play the game. Similarly, there's a part of you that is kind of like outside of you right now, that is the awareness that is allowing you to even know what to do in the game. It's as if they're like, yo, man, is life about seeking treasure? And you're like, at first you sought objective treasure, then subjective treasure, then emotional treasure. Then you just reached a point where you realize the limitations of your intelligence, that the body is limited by finitude and the mind is limited by the infinitude. Why is the mind limited by infinitude? Because what the mind fears is not death. What the mind fears is not to know what to choose out of like a multiple choice, an infinite multiple choice. So at some point you do require the higher power. Everybody technically considers the higher power. Like, human beings are civilized because they acknowledge law. It's kind of like wondering about the world I would like to leave behind for the future generations. It's a world where the ratio of efficient decisions is greater than inefficient decisions. Okay, and it's one where the advanced civilization, just like how a person needs to be conscious of themselves, right? Similarly, the species needs to become conscious of itself, which means the most advanced relationship of a civilization with its citizens. Right now, I am realizing we have humanity has been ushered in an era of tasting peace. We've tasted peacefulness. At least generations of human beings have. Peaceful enough kind of life. Back in the day, it was like everybody had to have a sword. Like anybody could kill you at any moment. You know, sword and shield and kind of like, like endless training. But now we've reached an era where our minds are communicating. At least it's kind of cool to watch that minds fight, you know? And at some point you wonder about what the most advanced ideas in your world are. And when it comes to the future generations, there was this scene in this show, Attack on Titan, where there was this character called Commander Erwin, where this soldier, they're all about to go die in the show. And there's this soldier that looks at him and says, is life meaningless? And Erwin says, no, life isn't meaningless. We live for those who will discover the meaning one day. Do you know that means we're all living for the greatest potentials of the future generation? Poetically, for me, I see the human kingdom as a kingdom and as a monarchy, but the crown is not on the head of any living human being ever. It's always on the head of the unborn future generations. We're serving the legacy of our species while consciously functioning in a civilization where our inner realms our private lives can be nourished as well. So we need a win-win strategy. So we need to find a way to, we need to wonder about what is the most advanced, efficient state of 8 billion inner lives, and what is the most advanced, efficient state of externally all the human beings that will walk on this earth, and or in some sense open their eyes in this world. So we have to be aware that the possibility, anytime in a world scenario there's choice, there's responsibility, and there's ability involved. you know we need to wonder about what we're not seeing, and it's like when what you don't know is more fascinating than what you know. I think that's when you start like advancing. Anyways, guys, ultimately the system admin knows, and life will become a sort of, I guess, beautiful awareness to the potential of greatness's activation in every moment. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful.